Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this inaugural meeting of our Stats Club. I'm really overwhelmed to see you all, our former teachers, and Mr. Pradeep. I'm really excited for your session as well. So on this auspicious occasion, I'd like to welcome our dear Professor, Dr. P.G. Shankaran. I feel extremely honored to welcome you, sir, again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Presentation also.
Yeah. And I also, in front of everyone, I really also extend a warm welcome to Mr. Pradeep John, who is our guest for the event. We're really thankful to you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend the function. Thank you so much for that. So before I start the presentation, we have a small video about our Stats Club. I'll share my screen now.
Okay.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, coming.
Just a minute.
Is it visible now?
Yeah,
it's
fine.
coming. It's coming.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
This video with no sound?
Actually, it is having sound, sir, but it's not audible as shared from the screen itself.
Somebody is trying to present.
You just request Anoop to exit from the present mode.
Yeah.
Anoop is presenting. Renoop is presenting.
Yeah, actually, in the people, if you see the drop down, you can pin the presenter, sir. So if you are able to pin that, then that will be good, sir. In the right side panel, if the people, you can see the drop down box. In the drop down box, just pin hide most of presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to find the name because so many people.
Yeah, Renu, could you please turn off your presentation?
Just instruct others not to give the present mode.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start with the presentation. So our meeting agenda is, first I'll introduce to all of you about our Stats Club and the things we have. And after that, we will have an inauguration by our Shankaran sir. And then we'll have discussion on weather forecasting with Mr. Pradeep John. And later after that, you can ask your questions and queries. So our Stats Club, I'll introduce you about our Stats Club. So our Stats Club is a bunch of statistic enthusiasts from different fields. We all know that statistics is an essential in vast areas. It is in very high demand, but the resources are very less. So a bunch of statistic enthusiasts has come up with the Stats Club, so that they can bring together people from different areas who are into statistics or require statistical assistance under the same roof. So it is basically you can collaborate with people from different statistical backgrounds and utilize their expertise and experience as well. So our Stats Club has 4 major streams: academics, analytics, competitive exams, and research assistance. Am I audible, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So academics is mainly to impart statistical knowledge. As I said, there are less resources with statistical knowledge. That's why we really aimed at this stream of academics. So under academics, we have career guidance for students who are looking to have a career in statistical, in data science, data analysis, and things like that. We have research guidance. We have report writing. So for report writing, mainly people do is when the project is finally over, they kind of tend to write their report on Word, which is a very tedious process. So our Stats Club has resources to prepare the report on LaTeX, Beamer, PPT, and RMD as well. And we also provide, guidance to students to pursue their higher studies. We have statistical programming trainers. We have research collaborations in the sense that, people can come to our club and join with us and publish their papers. We have interaction. Interaction is mainly we have contacts with, really good resources with statistics background. So whenever people are in need of those resources, people can contact our Stats Club. We have assignment guidance, we have webinar series, we have e-workshops. E-workshops is resources can conduct workshops and things like that to other colleges or the required community or groups. We have mock interviews, and we also have project assistance. Am I clear?
Yeah, yes.
The next stream is industrial statistics we are focusing on. So statisticians and their analytical skills are in a high demand in today's job market, be it agriculture, be it healthcare, cybersecurity, or even government sectors. So people can consult us regarding consulting. So consultings like private firms or individuals can consult us for their statistical analysis, because we really have a vast amount of, we really have resources from different fields, be it researchers, be it people from data science, data analysis, be it PhD scholars and things like that. We also have training and certification. We have product development. So when people can approach to us to deploy their statistical or services for commercial use, and there is no need of much IT support there. We also have internships and part-time jobs. Students can approach us to find more about internship opportunities or part-time jobs as well. And we also have knowledge hub, in the sense that people, as I said, there are very less resources, of people having background in statistics. They can approach to us, like when they have a large data set, and they have no idea what to do with it. If they approach to us, we will connect them to the right resources. So that's what we aim on industrial statistics. And many of the students or many of the people are now aiming for competitive exams like NET, GATE, Indian Statistical Service, RBI, and other government services. So that's why we have decided to put competitive exams as one of our major agendas as well. So what we do is we connect them with the right coaching classes. We provide them with the right materials to learn, and we provide previous year question papers, doubt clearing, alerts in the sense that, about the exam dates regarding question papers, and we also conduct mock exams. And research assistance. Research assistance is in the sense that many people from other disciplinary are approaching our researchers and our resources to conduct statistical analysis for their projects or any of their studies. So that's why we have included interdisciplinary research guidance. We have LaTeX report creation. As I said earlier, people are mostly using Word, which is a tedious process, and we have technical support to provide reports on easily using LaTeX. We have questionnaire preparation and sampling frame design. So when students or other people are doing a project, they might not have the correct, in order to achieve their objective, they won't have the correct set of questions. So we also help them prepare their questionnaires correctly so that they can achieve their objective. We also connect with them to the right resources to conduct survey, and we have statistical analysis and interpretation resources as well as report writing. So the next is the club structure. We have 6 structures to the club. We are not on a hierarchical basis. So anytime one is joining the club, they can be a member, they can be a resource, or they can be a mentor. They can be any of them. So a member is anyone who joins the club can be a member. So the next is the correspondent. The correspondent is basically, for example, I am the corresponder for this this function. So this function, a function may be led by a main person, but there are requirements of other people or resources for the main person to go through the function. So that is a correspondent. The resource is the one who conducts the function, or the one who conducts a workshop or online classes and things like that. Mentors are the experts. Mentors is like the final, destination for you to clear your statistical doubts and things like that. And we have the management. Management basically takes care of our accounting, legal, marketing, and IT support. And we have the advisory board, who is the face, or who will be the face of our stats club. I hope I'm clear. Hello?
Okay.
Yes, clear.
Yes.
So next, I would like to introduce Dr. P.D. Shankaran to everyone. As we all know, he is currently serving as the 13th Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Cochin University of Science and Technology. He is also a professor at the Department of Statistics at CUSAT, and he has more than 22 years of experience in teaching and research. He is also the former director at Center for Population Studies. He is also a visiting scientist at many leading Indian and international institutes. So he has completed his master's in statistics from CUSAT. He also done his PhD there in CUSAT as well. He has 3 books publications. He has more than 100 research papers, 77 conference papers, and 3 technical papers. Some of his achievements are: he received the Young Researcher Award constituted by the International Indian Statistical Association USA to honor outstanding researchers in statistical theory. He has also got the Boy Scouts Fellow of DST, Government of India 2000, CSIR Senior Research Fellowship, visiting scientist at many, as I said, he is a visiting scientist at many leading Indian and international institutions like Indian Statistical Institute, University of Dalhousie, Canada, and University of Waterloo. He's also a member of International Statistical Institute, the Netherlands, American Mathematical Society, USA, Institute of Mathematical Statistics, USA, International Indian Statistical Association, International Society for Business and Industrial Statistics. He's also a reviewer for many international journals such as American Mathematical Review. And we have Dr. Pradeep John, Mr. Pradeep John, who is our guest of honor today for the function. I'm really excited to introduce you, Mr. Pradeep. So Mr. Pradeep is, popularly known as the Tamil Nadu weatherman. He's an Indian, self-taught weather expert and weather blogger from Tamil Nadu. He is also a weather blogger. He is the deputy manager at Tamil Nadu Urban Infrastructure Financial Services Limited. So he did his bachelor's in engineering in computer science and engineering from Satyabama University. He has an MBA in finance from Madras Universities, and he's also got several awards as well: Inspirational Achiever Award 2018 and Inspirational Role Model Award 2019. So he started blogging about weather and rainfall in 2008. He started social media publishing in 2014. He has a website of his own, and he has a very active Facebook page as well. and it said that he has more accurate monsoon forecast than IMD, and he also he has more followers after the 2015 Chennai floods. Now I welcome Dr. P.G. Shankiran to inaugurate this auspicious occasion.
Good afternoon. I'm audible?
Yes.
Yeah, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Pradeep John, Dr. Sunoj, Dr. Asha, my dear students, Dr. Vishnuvardhan, and other statistics fraternity. So this is a very happy occasion for me to inaugurate a platform, how our Stats Club, which is a platform for the statistics lovers. As organizers mentioned, this is the main purpose of this platform is to utilize the expertise from various experience and ignite their young minds with the statistics knowledge in all means. I would like to mention a history of statistics in a brief way. If you look at the history of statistics, we can see the 4 phases of development. The first phase began even in BCs, where the statistics was used for collecting information on various socio-economic aspects related to the people. The Greek people, and in India, Ashoka, they were used statistics to collect information on income of people or number of people available for work and other socio-economic characteristics. The main tool they have used for the analysis of information was the empirical approach. Then later, in 80s, second phase of development started with the help of mathematical theory. The main contributors towards the development of this mathematical theory in early 16th century were Laplace, Gauss, Legendre, Cauchy, and they invented novel tools to solve certain problems related to astronomy and physical sciences. The probability distributions like the Laplace distribution, Cauchy distribution, Gaussian distribution were derived to study modeling. Parallelly, in 16th century, a scientific method of census was developed by a group of researchers led by Dr. John Grant, Britain, to collect information on certain epidemics happened during that time. They basically collected information on number of deaths or number of incidents during that period, and they developed a new topic called the demography. Then the strong foundation of modern statistics was developed in 19th century by a group of people led by Professor R.A. Fisher, and who became later the father of the statistics. Then the applications of statistics on various fields such as agriculture, industry, economics, business were established with the help of strong mathematical foundation of probability and statistics. Kolmogorov, Pearson, Gossett, Neyman, and many others contributed a lot for such development. Then the third phase of the development started during 20th century by the help of computer technology. The development of computer technology enhanced the application of this subject, and an area known as computational statistics was formed in the middle of 20th century. Complex real-life problems can be analyzed using modern statistical tools with the help of computers. Then the end of the 20th century, the fourth phase was started, where the internet is available and common. Lot of information on various aspects are available, and analysis of massive data sets needs new tools and new procedures. A new discipline, namely data science, was formed, which is an interdisciplinary science between computer science and statistics. This is a field that scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and systems to extend knowledge and insights from structured and unstructured data sets. As you know, for the development of statistics, Indians were contributory a lot. Professor Mahalanobis, who is known as the father of Indian statistics, and Professor Asif Bose, Professor S.N. Roy, Professor C.R. Rao, Professor J.K. Ghosh, and Professor P.K. Sen, and many others contributed to the various fields of statistics. Today, we should remember their contributions and work further to new tools which needs for solving current problems of statistics. As you know, we have a lot of challenges right now. The climate change leads to various issues like floods, droughts, and other things. New diseases like corona are attacking us. We statisticians knew that existing methods and theories are not adequate to solve these issues. However, the role of statistics is very important in this context, and we should develop new models and tools for analyzing such situations. Right now, we are getting new ideas to model this type of situations and to analyze such a data set. However, we know that the new proposed models or new procedures are not enough to solve these issues. So I request all statisticians to work further to develop appropriate methodology for solving such issues. I hope that this platform will be a thing which can help all fields of science to solve such issues. I formally inaugurate the launching of this platform. I wish a very best to this venture. I congratulate all organizers of this platform for developing such a new venture. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankaran sir, for your valuable words, and thank you so much. I am thanking you so much in front of our club for your big support, and other faculties as well present here. Now I would like to hand over the dais to Mr. Pradeep for his words.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity given for me. I have a very small presentation. I'll just run through the basics of how the weather is predicted, how the rains have been predicted for Kerala or Tamil Nadu, how the monsoons are predicted. What are the basic factors which we see? So I'll just run through the slides, and then we will have a Q&A section where I can answer your questions.
Yeah. So I'll just stop sharing my screen. Mr. Pradeep, you can share your screen.
Can you all see the slides?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
yes,
coming.
I'll just start with the basics. As you all know that Kerala is having covered with the western side, in the eastern side by Western Ghats. So most of the rainfall in Kerala are orographic rainfall. I think you would have all studied in the school days. So for any rains to happen, we need this air particle to be lifted. So here we can see that in a natural way, the mountains lift the winds, moist winds, and then you get this orographic rainfall. The other side in Tamil Nadu, you see the leeward side, which is mostly dry. So this is how the southwest monsoon rainfall occurs in Kerala, and it's within a short period of time from June to September. Certain places in Kerala get very rainfall in the entire world. So this Western Ghats is like it's not like Hawaii or other places where they get continuously heavy rainfall. It's like in short period they get around 5,000 millimeters to 6,000, and some places in Silent Valley like Valakad they all get close to 8,000 to 9,000 millimeters. In Idiki, Rajamala, so most of the places in the gut areas they get a very extreme rainfall in a very short period of time. So this is why when there is extreme rains, it is prone to floods in Kerala also. This is another pictorial representation. This rainfall, I think the frontal rainfall we don't witness here. It mostly it is seen in. I think you all are aware of this tornado twisters. So mostly this happens in America, where the cold air from the Arctic dips down, the polar, and then when it interacts with the warm air from the equator side, you get this twister kind of. Here we don't get the cold fronts because Himalayas they don't allow the cold fronts to dip further. Entirely it gets blocked in the Himalayas. The next rainfall, which is the convective rainfall. So as I said earlier, for any rains to happen, the air particle needs to be lifted. Here you can see the heat is playing. Once it is heated, the air particle gets, then the cold particles, it rises up. At certain point, after it gives condensation. So even in April, May month, all these thunderstorms which you see in Cochin, all rainfalls are based on this convective rainfall. You will have a very hot day till 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. and suddenly you get this lightning and thunder rains. So normally in monsoon rains, you don't see this thunder. But in the rains you see from April to May, before the monsoon, you see this kind of rainfall in Kerala. Another one is a key one which plays a role in even Cochin also, all the coastal base is the sea breeze trend. So once you all know that the basic principle is once the day starts, the land gets heated up fast. So at certain points when there is a difference between the land temperature and sea temperature, the wind starts to blow from sea side. So the pressure drops automatically from sea side. The wind start to move towards the land side. So during a hot day for a convective rainfall during May, in the month of May, April, you see this pattern of rainfall. The moist air from the sea side is filled with moisture. So when the sea breeze moves in, automatically you will see that sudden buildup of clouds, and then you get thunderstorms. I'll just limit it here, and then I'll go to the modeling. So for this is so the world over, let it be USA or Europe or anyone, entire world, it depends upon the numerical weather models. So you all heard about a global forecasting system. There is UK Met, ECMFWF, the European Center for Medium Weather Forecasting. So there are 4 or 5 leading numerical weather models which are run with some initial conditions, and then based on that, the forecast in whatever you see in Facebook app or mobile app or Google app, it doesn't show the weather. So all the inputs are taken from these 4 or 5 major numerical weather models. So entire world, the weather models are recently, or for the past few years, has been predicted using numerical weather model. So what goes into this numerical weather model is the initial conditions. So these models are run 4 times a day, most probably in 0 UTC, 6 UTC, 12 UTC, and 18 UTC. So the initial condition across the globe are set. So all these are the evaporation, the solar radiation, the turbulence, condensation, the snowfall, topography. All these are fed into these numerical models, and it's using supercomputer. It is run on various outputs like precipitation. What will be the temperature today? What will be the temperature tomorrow? So all these are given to as output of the models. You can see these are the global conditions. So satellite also, in the case of non-receipt of data, the gaps will be filled by the satellite also. So the models have the grid. So each the area of the Earth is divided by grid. The more number of grid, the accurate is the model. Suppose if we take the ECMF model. It is a 9 square kilometer grid, so which has one of the highest resolution in the models. Well, if you take the global forecasting system by NOAA in America, it has a grid system of 27 kilometers. So it will be lightly, the data will not be so much accurate. The more the number of grids, the more the accurate of data. And also the terrain conditions, the land cover, the ice cover, all these details are fed into the numerical weather models as input. So, and then it is run in, as I said, it will be run, and then all this outputs are shared. Sometimes there are MEO-scale models are there, regional models are there also for specific. In Europe, they follow a grid of 1 kilometer grids also followed for. So at particular, people often ask, in Europe, they can tell us 2 o'clock rains means exactly 2 o'clock rains, because the resolution of models are very small there. The grid size is very small. But in the case of us, it's very tricky basin. We are close to the tropics. We have a closed sea. Bay of Bengal is there. Other side, the Arabian Sea is there. Arabian Sea, there is the number of the data which is fed into the model is very less. So no one knows how accurate the output will turn. So the model output is as good as the input which is given into the fed into the numerical models. You can see this. This is a IMD model. It has a collaboration with the GFS. This is how the output will be given. This is a precipitation chart for accumulation for 24 hours. So once the model is run, you will get output like this. You can see here various rain, where you can know, okay, the probability. So the last 10 runs, it has been the rains have been picked. So the probability of rains occurring today or tomorrow is going to be pretty high. So you can come into a conclusion, okay, it is not that suddenly it is showing 100 millimeters or suddenly it is showing floods. So when you watch closely the previous runs and other things, you get to know the trend exactly. You can see here, these are some of the various outputs. This is for moisture flux, how the moisture is moved in. Here we use this to show, okay, now the rains are particularly in the interiors. The moisture is pushed interiors, so the convergence happen there. So there are various ways one can use to predict rains, not only by accumulation, the wind pattern, the convergence, all these things can be used. As I said earlier, you can see this. This is one of the model for 24-hour precipitation.
Again.
Yeah, we can see.
So as I said here, you can see the various models spread. So this is the ensemble-based output. You can see the confidence is spread, low or high. You can see the second, the one which large number of, you can see the trough dipping. There are various number of probability which is shown. So that in the right side, this is what the output from the ensemble, the confidence level is low. So for various parameters, we can use this ensemble. This is for rainfall. You can see the multi-ensemble. The ECMF is there. The JMA, Japan Meteorological Association, their ensemble is there. They have 27 members. The NCP is one which I talked about, the GFS. So you can see one model predicting one heavy rains, other model ensemble is not picking up heavy rains. So there is various probability for the same day.
Fine.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is how the major roles. So this is how the monsoon. You can see the Madagascar. There is a Mascarene eye, the high pressure. This is the powerhouse of the southwest monsoon. So when you're interpreting charts, you can see this high pressure in your any of your freely available websites in windy.com, where you can see how strong this Mascarene eye is. So based on this, also we can predict how much the westerly winds are going to come towards the Western Ghats side. This is ITCS, where the winds from the north and south will converge. This is the concept I said right now near the Mascarene eye, which is the powerhouse of the southwest monsoon. So you can see the winds as the ITCS moves, convergence shifts to the northern hemisphere near Kerala, Karnataka border. That's how they get a very heavy rainfall. You can see here how it is different from January and July. You can see the monsoon axis here, right, running from the heat low is the, I think you all know about the heat low which is near the Pakistan, so which acts as the main driver. Here you can see the low, monsoon low has been connected across the axis. So this monsoon axis you often see in the IMD report daily. The monsoon axis is coming down. The monsoon today report, if you see, the monsoon axis is shifted towards Western Ghats, Himalayas. So once that is happens, automatically there will the rains will stop in the Kerala side, and the rains will increase in the places like Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Bihar, all these places, West Bengal towards Sikkim. So once this axis moves up, automatically there is going to be very heavy rainfall in the Himalaya side. The same thing happens. You can see here, this is the break monsoon. Right now we are in break monsoon period right from yesterday. So automatically the rains from Kerala would have reduced from yesterday. This is one of the break monsoon scenarios. You can see here the low going up to the monsoon axis and hitting the foothills of Himalayas. The other one is the strong one where there is a strong offshore trough when active monsoon. You can see the MSLP charts. There will be in the sea level charts. You can see this offshore trough which will be very strong. When the offshore trough is very strong, automatically Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Mumbai, all this. So this was a scenario which was present few days back. I think the northeast monsoon is the opposite of that. I will not go much into. So I will go into the concept of El Nino. I think most of you have heard about this El Nino concept. So it is nothing but you can see the screen here. The Nino 3.4 region. So it is in the dateline region, the Pacific Ocean. So when this area, you can see that second image, when this area of the sea is particularly warm by 1 degree, automatically what happens, the trade winds shifts the other ways. So the first one is the normal year, and you can see the down in the El Nino year how the trade winds operate. So in Kerala particularly, if you see in 2015, whenever there is a El Nino, statistically Kerala gets very less rainfall, and the opposite happens, Kerala gets very good rainfall. So you can see this year it's not a El Nino year, it's a normal neutral year. There is no El Nino nor a La Nina, and it is going to trending in August. It is trending towards a La Nina zone. We can see how that there are a lot of stats available in the sites where which year is a which month is a El Nino. So you can see here the red colored ones where we can see if the temperature sea surface. This denotes the sea surface temperature in 3.40. Normally, you know, the sea surface temperature is around 26 degree to 27 degrees. When it increases by 1 degree, it creates El Nino. When it is around that normal degree, we call it as a neutral year. When it falls down below 1 degree, we call it as a La Nina year. So this is how the concept of El Nino, La Nina. You can track this daily also. What situation today, whether you are in La Nina or El Nino. So predominantly, you can see El Nino. You can see most of the June to September monsoon is most of the times the droughts have happened during the El Nino period. This is La Nina. You can see here June to September in India. Mostly it will be above normal rains. This is a explanation why we get less rainfall. You can see here wherever, as I tell, the first principle itself, wherever also in the, but you can see the suppression close to the India, near India. So during El Nino year, in June to September, we get very less rainfall. That's the opposite which happens during the La Nina year. So we get very good rainfall statistically during a La Nina year, during June to September. Even this year, that's why we are expecting, even though the monsoon is not good till date in Kerala, but coming in August and July end, we are expecting the monsoon to pick up because of this La Nina trend. I just explained how this convergence happens during the early cell. This is how the convergence shifts. Another one factor is the IOD. Now we have seen the El Nino, which happens the sea surface temperature in Pacific Ocean. There is also Indian Ocean, which plays a crucial role for our monsoon. The positive during an El Nino year, there is a positive. You can see here the western side of the eastern side of the Indian Ocean is if it is warm near Indonesia, we call it as a negative IOD year. You can see the last year the positive IOD was there, where the ocean is warm near the Somalia part. So wherever the western Indian Ocean, when it is warm, then normal, we call it as positive IOD. We can see here this image was last year. Last year was one of the record strongest positive IOD years. You saw many number of cyclones in Bay of Bengal because the entire because due to the positive iodic convection there. Another one factor is which decides the rainfall is the Magellan-Julian oscillation. So this is an equatorial wave which moves from Africa till Pacific Ocean and then comes back. So it's a rotatory wave which moves in 1 to 60 days. You can see the phase 2 and phase 3. Whenever MJO moves into our basin, we get very good rainfall. Suppose if MJO is in phase 2 and phase 3, we get Kerala, all these places. Even when the monsoon, you have to link. Whenever you are saying monsoon, you have to see this also. How the MJO is, whether the MJO is in suppressed phase or active phase. So for India to get good rainfall, MJO has to be in phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. So during northeast monsoon, whenever MJO moves in, it also picks up the cyclonic activity. During southwest monsoon, we don't see often cyclones because the monsoon itself is acts as a low kind of system and the wind shear is pretty high. We can track this also. You can see this is one of the MJO forecasts. You can see there the dates are given. This all how the MJO is going to move in. The centers, how strong the MJO is. We can the is how far away from the circle. It describes the strength of the MJO. We call it as amplitude. The MJO, we say that MJO is an amplitude phase 2 with a strong amplitude with a less amplitude. During monsoon, southwest monsoon, the MJO, if the presence itself is enough, we will get good convective rains. So we can have a lot of data available. We can correlate with the rainfall. So whenever MJO is there, we have correlated with the rainfall. We can see that when during MJO presence, the rainfalls are enacts and have been mostly involved in positive side. Example, this is in 2016 northeast monsoon. The MJO was totally absent and we ended in one of the worst northeast monsoon rainfall in 160 years. The same applies to southwest monsoon also. There are various tools are there which you can spot the MJO well in advance. We have up to 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in advance also. We can say that when the next MJO is moving in, when there is going to be the blue color indicate the active phase, the red color indicate the suppressed phase. You can see here even the 200 MB jet stream wind anomaly also there are models are available in tropical jet beds. You can check here whether the active phase is there, the suppressed phase is there. The same way, after the 2000 government real-time street floor forecasting system. So you all know that numerical weather model, all the inputs are there. You know what is going to be the rains in next 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. So anything beyond 3 days is almost negligible. So we for Chennai, we write down all the 2 hours, 3 hours, all this will be fed into the model. Then we will be putting all the forecasts given by IMD also. There is also radar input also there. So we will all feed this into model. And then the low-lying areas. We got defense permission for flying. We'll be flying the aerial radar and then getting the topography of the entire Chennai basin at 25 centimeter interval. So this will be fed into the our hydro model. Whenever the rains comes, automatically go maybe in a year or so. So I think Kerala is also planning to do thing after the 2018 and 19 floods. So we are in advanced stages now. Most probably in a year or so, we will get to make this real-time flood forecasting operational. So where you can see that how much depth the flow will be, all these outputs will be getting in the real-time flood forecasting. At the same time, in the street levels, also on which street, how many hours there is going to be flood, which is going to be flooded, whether there is going to be 50 centimeter flood, 40 centimeter flood. All these things also will output also will be able to getting. For the first time in India, we are making up a street flooding also. So when to open the dams, other things, it will not be manual. I think a lot of controversy happened in 2018 floods with respect to Kerala floods. Once you have this kind of system, automatically it will be not human judgment based. You can based on the water which is going to come in the next day or in 2 days. you can operate the flood forecasting system. I will stop my session here. I think I'm not go beyond. If you allow me, I will just speak because I don't know what is your area of expertise. This is how factors which I consider. Suppose the one slide I want to show with a real time. You can see here, this is one of the model output winds. The experience of the interpreter plays a lot. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
You can see here the monsoon winds are blowing perpendicular to the guts of Kerala. So this happened on the 2018 floods on August 10th. You can see here the wind speeds are getting the most of the heavy rains happen in the gutty areas. Almost 80 to 90 kilometers per wind speed, which is hitting the guts. So during these kind of things, when you get all these model outputs, you know that there is going to be very pretty heavy rainfall in the catchment areas in the western Ghats. At the same time, if you see few days later, you can see here the winds are slowing up, and you can see near the coast, the winds are not blowing directly to the gut area; it is parallelly going to the coast. So in this scenario, the rainfall will be very less in the gut areas like Idukki, Wayanad, or Malappuram, but the rainfall will be only happening near the coastal areas. So while interpreting the charts, you have to, if you are interpreting for over a period of years, you will know this is a wind pattern. Okay, this wind pattern, Kerala, these places will get good rains. So the wind flow is like parallelly to the coast. The coastal areas will get rains. If you see today, you can see today almost the westerlies are totally absent. You can see the westerly winds are not even reaching the coast. So normally this time the rainfall will happen in the other side in Tamil Nadu, and most of the Kerala will get only convective rainfall. There will not be any widespread rainfall. So the experience of the interpreting the charts also plays a huge role. You can see this is one of the 850 HPA winds. This is 850 HPA means 1.5 kilometers from surface. This is on 15 August on 2018. You can see here how the monsoon low is on the other side. The low is on near Odisha. You can see the entire monsoon winds has been pulled. This is the day when Kerala got very extreme rains on August 15, 2018. So while interpreting charts, the winds, the model outputs also plays a huge role, and your experience in whether the coastal areas is getting rains at the same time the upstream area is also getting rains. So all these things are we use to determine, okay, this is going to be rains are going to happen at same place in the upstream, downstream, everywhere is going to rain. So all these plays a decision-making role in disseminating information to the public. Okay, there is going to be rainfall in the upstream. The dams are going to be, there is going to be a huge inflow into the lakes. At the same time, there is going to be water which has been stagnant in the plains also. So there will be some backwater effect. All these things I used to give whenever for giving rainfalls to the alert to the public. So basically, just one for basically before going into any for forecasting, I will request you to take all these teleconnections. How in the previous El Nino years, how the monsoon have been for Kerala. At the same time, when the El Nino is here, whether the positive IOD is mitigating the effect, it's offsetting the El Nino impact. So normally, if you say when there is a El Nino, when there is a positive IOD, it will mitigate the El Nino effects, and there will be good rainfall. So you have to get all this information out there, statistically put how the gut areas of Wayanad or the Thrissur or Idukki have got rains in this pattern, how the coastal areas of right now, if you see, except Kasaragod, Kannur and Kozhikode, the rains are mostly concentrated in the northern Kerala districts and along the coast, but not much rains have happened in the because the other side in the Odisha, the monsoon is not much active, and we are seeing a prolonged break phase. But this changes from August. We are seeing that Enjoy is moving in from August, and I am personally expecting very good rainfall in the first half of the August, and from the last week of July to first week of August. So we use all this information, we process it. Sometimes we statistically note down all this in Excel sheet. We'll compare the probability. Okay, if this is that, there is a correlation factor of 5. There is a correlation factor of 7 for this So we give weightage accordingly. We can say that this monsoon is going to be good, this monsoon is going to be very bad. So I will stop my boring talk here. So I will just take a Q&A section from you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sunuj.
Mr. Pradeep, it was a nice talk. Actually, I just want to get some details about how this numerical modeling, because being statistics people, we are more interested on that side.
Okay.
So works here because what I understand here, in India, mainly the people, the government, state governments are all depending on the IMD weather forecasting, and they are making use of some kind of numerical modeling techniques. And so since you are also an expert in this area, so how about your exploration on this weather forecasting with regard to and yeah.
We have three agencies right now. IMD has a model with IMD collaboration with NOAA. IMD GFS model is there, where the IMD claims the resolution of the model is 12 kilometers. Previously, I would have told about the grid size. So the IMD grid size is around 12 kilometers. There is also one more agency in Noida, NCMWRF, so which is coming under Ministry of Earth Science. And the third model is IITM. So IITM also have a collaboration with GFS. They are also having one more model.
Pune.
Yes, IITM Pune.
Yeah.
So there are three models. But if you take on a same day, for example, tomorrow you are going to take the same model, you will see different kind of charts for the three same day for the same initial conditions. The MCMR NWRF is having a collaboration with UK Met, the Met Office of Britain. They have developed their model. See, some models are very good in capturing the rainfall, the monsoon rainfall. Some models are very good in capturing particularly the GFS model. It is capturing the trend of the 24-hour rainfall well. So all these things, some models, if you say, suppose, I assume ECMF is the best for the Western Ghat rainfall. The ECMF global model is around having a 9-kilometer resolution. So which has the highest resolution in the entire world in our region. So if you take the ECMF model, you can see that it picks up the Western Ghat rainfall, particularly in the Ghat areas. In the 2018 model and all, it picked the heavy rainfall well in advance. So you could have seen in that. At the same time, if you compare it with the IMD GFS model, the performance would not be so good. So all the initial conditions which are going into are all given by our agencies only, the solar radiation, the rainfall data. So there is it is not that the models are run. As I said, the initial condition for all the models are same. The algorithm, other factor, and the grid size only varies. So the data are going into but at the same time, our basin is little bit tricky. So the same model which is run for the America or Japan, it is run only here. So, but considering the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal is a closed basin, the output accuracy of the models are very less. That's how I feel. So we need to improve a lot in capturing the rainfall.
What is your grid size? What is your grid size? Your grid size.
Grid size for ECMF is 9 kilometers. For IMD GFS is 12 kilometer grid size.
Okay.
Okay. The other, I think the other members can ask if they want.
So it is not possible. See, before setting up, I think many people think that it is easy to set up a numerical weather model here and we can run this model. So that is pretty difficult because it requires huge computing space. So these are run by the supercomputers which are available there. I think IMD has procured more processing capacity. Even ECMF and NOAA, they are improving their processing capacity also. So the more, I think maybe ECMF is going to release a more advanced version of their model also.
Anybody is using this stochastic differential equation? You have
that I think that is used by the German ICON model.
Okay.
But it is only good for ICON model is good for capturing the convective rains. But it is not very good. We have seen it. It picks up the good convective rains with the heat-based rains. But for the monsoon rains, that model, I think it is not so much accurate. Not even 50% accurate.
Okay. Okay. So any other doubts, Haya?
Yeah, we have few questions in our chat box. Asif Totatil has asked, Sir, you had predicted in previous months that in Kerala that there will be hat-trick flood this year, like which happened at 1920s and 1960s. What similarities did you observe in these three periods to predict a hat-trick flood in 2020?
Right now the negative factors for less rainfall is Kerala is very less. As I said, we are trending towards, in August, we are trending towards a La Nina mode. That is very favorable during, historically, if you see in a La Nina mode, we have got very good rainfall. And that is also going to be negative IOD. So in the coming August, maybe July end and August, we'll be getting very good rainfall. I didn't predict floods because I am a government servant. I deal with all these stormwater drains, design of real-time flood. I deal with many consultancies. I have not predicted floods. What I have said is there is good chance of again getting Kerala crossing 2,300 millimeters of rainfall for that southwest monsoon total.
Okay.
Thank
So
you, sir.
historically, we have got only once hat-trick was Kerala was got 2,300 millimeters of rainfall 3 times. That is 1923, 22, 23, and 24. So we have not got it. So in the last 2 years, we have crossed 2,300 millimeters of rainfall, 2018 and 19. This year also, there is very good possibility of us crossing that mark.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your input, sir. There's another query as well from Dilip Kumar. Sir, can we expect heavy monsoon rain in Kerala this year? Some
Yes.
authorities are claiming
In July,
that.
from the end of July and the first half of August is going to be very good for Kerala.
Okay, all right.
I would have shown that the July and the August were the months where the monsoon winds are very strong. The gut areas get rainfall. So June is mostly the coastal areas. The July and the second half of July and August is mostly when the monsoon winds are at peak. In Tamil, they say Adi Kaathu, July and August, when the winds are very strong. That is the period when Kerala gets widespread rain, particularly in the interior districts.
Okay.
So the first half of August is one you have to watch, because 2018 also it was first of August, first half of August, 2019 also first half of August, and the trends, the models show that this time also the first August is going to be pretty active.
Okay. I hope, Dilip, that solved your query. We have one more question from Vishnu Vardhan. He is asking how changes in climate and environmental factors will affect the prediction of rainfall.
See, as I told, whatever data you feed in, that will be the output. The more erroneous data, the clarity less data, if you feed in, the output also will be erroneous. Suppose you take yesterday for Tamil Nadu forecast, the ECMF model, which is of the high resolution, showed for Trichy. You all are aware of Trichy, Madurai in Tamil Nadu. It showed 250 millimeters of rainfall today, in a convective rainfall, which has never happened. So something has gone erroneous. So the data during lockdown, if you have seen, the model performance have gone down much. Even they struggled to pick that Sampan cyclone for a long time. So almost for 15 days they were showing cyclone. They showed cyclone crossing on the first week of May, but the cyclone made landfall in Calcutta in only around 18th and 19th. So 18 days delay was happened for crossing a cyclone. So because the number of input data due to the lockdown effect was seen in the model itself, but most of these gaps will be captured by satellite data. But the real input comes to the field data which is being fed into the models. So the number of data is less. In India, particularly, the data which has been given to the model is particularly very less. That's why we see this. It is the same model which is predicting 2 o'clock London sharp rains, which happens. It is the same model which is predicting, if you say 100 millimeters for Kochi, it will not happen. It is the same because of the lack of data.
Okay, sir. We have more questions coming in. Next question is from Sachin S. Kumar. He's asking, what are we really lacking in forecasting? Is it an accurate algorithm or computation power?
And it is computation power. We have all this supercomputing. It is not, see, as I said, the most advanced model from Europe or America, they struggle to predict our basin. It is not we. The global model is run, it's all interconnected. We cannot run only for Cochin one model or something. It's all interconnected. So it's not only we are a developing country. We are now just developing our own model in collaboration with these 2 agencies. IMD is collaborating with the US and the NCMWRF is collaborating with the UK Met. It is not we. So it's everyone which is struggling in our basin. It is pretty complex. The Western Ghats rainfall, it is very difficult to pick this heavy rainfall, sudden outburst of rainfall. The 200, 300 millimeters of rainfall. See, in Ghat area, the models will show only 100 millimeters, but the reality will be 2 times the rainfall. So it is very difficult to predict these monsoon rains and very extreme rains which happen in the Ghat area. These areas are very special regions of earth which you are living in. So it is very difficult to exactly predict the quantum rains. So models are only probability based. We can say that there is going to be good rains today. We cannot exact. Humans are not yet today 100 millimeters. It will not rain 100 millimeter. We have not gone to that stage.
Okay. We have another interesting question from Srikuti. She's asking, as a weatherman, do you think degradation or ecological exploitation of Western Ghats worsened Kerala floods? Or is it just a nature's fury or due to unpredicted weather conditions?
See, this question will often asked. They ask me for Chennai floods. See, 2015 Chennai floods. Chennai outskirts region were pretty badly flooded. But the same areas in 2005, there was the same kind of rain, but not much were given. Because in 2005, those areas were undeveloped. People were not there. But now, with in 15 years, people were spread up in the outskirts. They were not able to buy land here. They were buying in the outskirts. So whenever they didn't see this area is a low-lying area, whether this area is a flood-prone area, nobody sees that when buying house or land. So the human intervention plays a lot of role itself. In 1924 floods were pretty more severe than the 2018 floods. So a lot of tourism activities. Kerala relies on a lot of tourism revenue. So a lot of tourism development have happened. Many people have, I think after 2007 and 2013, and not much heavy rains were there in Kerala. So people have forgotten how the floods are. They were taking nature for granted also. So there were pretty heavy rains which happened. At the same time, people were also able to blame the deforestation activities is going on, the roads, the developments, all these played which is not properly thought, properly planned. So, so any development which is happening in the hill areas of Western Ghats should have a proper planning, proper approval. The impacts of rain should be studied. Only then the development should happen. Otherwise, these kind of, we will be seeing heavy rains often in coming years. These kind of one way or the other. As I said, these areas in Western Ghats are very special areas which get a very extreme rainfall. So one way or other, we are going to see this kind of. 20 years ago, we don't have any photograph or mobile to immediately share these pictures. Right now, everyone is having everything. They are putting immediately in Twitter, all things. So those time also the same kind of water will be there, but we would not have seen it because of the technological lack of technology of available social media. Now we have all these things. So you know right now when it is raining in Wayanad, immediately next you see it in your Twitter page or Facebook page.
Okay, thank you for your input, Pradeep sir. We have one question. We'll end with a couple of questions. What is your inspiration to become Tamil Nadu weatherman?
No. See, it's a very accidental thing. I love collecting stats. If you take Kerala, I'm having around 200 years of statfall. For Chennai, particularly, right from I'm having temperature daily temperature right from 1796. For rainfall, Chennai rainfall, I'm having it right from 1813. For not only Chennai, maybe in the heavy rainfall places in Kerala also, right from hundreds of years, I'm having all these rainfall stats. So I like to play with all these stats. So often you would have seen in my post the top 10 rainfall, 15 rainfall, the historical rainfall, whenever the rainfall happens, and even in last time in Kerala also. So I was collecting all these stats right from my college days, almost for the past 20 years. Then once the social media came, I started updating. Okay, people needed one information, that is what I learned from the 2015 is they needed only 3 information: when the rains will start, how long the rains will be, when it will stop. That's all. And it will whether there will be floods or not. Only these things, 3 things people wanted. So I thought, okay, maybe since I am aware of all these basins, river basins, I concentrate a lot on this terrain. How the see, even if it rains in Wayanad in V3 in a particular place for this much mm, so we correlate. Okay, if it is raining here this much mm, okay, tomorrow Kabini may get this much inflow of water. In Idiki, this place is getting so much of rains. Automatically, okay, we will be expecting. If it is in Munnar belt, if it is raining so much, okay, in Amaravati Dam in the Tirupur, we will be getting so much of inflow of water. So all these things we correlate, we have information. So why not put into public use all this information? And then 2015 floods came, it all coincided, and then it happened. So it is all, I love rains, I love tracking. Even now, before this meeting, we were we monitor daily rains, not only of Tamil Nadu, in Kerala also, of places of significance like Kutiyadi, Kakayam, Idiki, Pirmed, all these places of strategic importance, we track it daily, how it is raining. So each day for the past 10 to 15 years, we are having this data, we are storing it. So we understand this kind of rainfall, if it is happening, okay, it is going to be pretty heavy like this. So this way, it will be useful for me to put information to the public.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We have one question from Sri Ranganath. Sir, from your experience, can you share for how much period ahead we can predict and how much historical data we need?
See, statistical model, it's very, you have all the data in IITM, you can put the past historical data of Kerala, district-wise data is there, 100 years district, you can correlate with all these teleconnections, which district has most affected to the past for El Nino or La Nina or positive IOD or negative IOD. At the same time, whether there is a decadal, we see trends in places like Idiki, there is a reduction of rainfall. So decadal variations. So for particular certain decades, the rainfall will be less. Again for a particular a decadal area, the rainfall will increase. You can study all this. If you have time, you can do wonders with this data available there, and then correlate with that and arrive at the factor. Okay, this factor is influencing rainfall in this district. So all these things. For personal forecast, this is basically a statistics based. You can name. So it may be right, it may not be right. So nature, every year it is not a template which will happen. Nature will have its own course. It is not a replicate of particular. Each year will be unique. 2019, in 1 week, everything changed. 2019, I'm saying. So till July end, like this year, it was the rainfall for very less. But in 1 week, completely the rainfall changed everything. So it's not in a typical pattern, it will replace. So even in the same teleconnection, same atmospheric state, same land or a sea state, the rainfall will differ. So we cannot predict that. But in the case of statistical modeling, you can have some correlation factor. Okay, this is here, this may be the pattern of rainfall. That in that way that you can arrive at the correlation factor. Okay, in the term of prediction of rainfall, anything beyond 72 hours is a joke. To be honest, anything beyond 72 hours is a joke. We can know the trend. Okay, in the next week there is going to be significant rain. But which place, whether we'll get heavy rains, whether this place particularly pinpointing a place is pretty difficult. So don't go beyond 72 hours.
We have 3 more questions, sir. I hope you have the time.
Yes, I have all the time this Sunday.
Thank you so much. So we have one question from Mohammed Anwar. Sir, is there any connection with weather conditions and astronomical events? Some people are suggesting such possibilities.
I don't think so. There are many are giving astronomical based forecast. But if you correlate it with the past years, you can say that it may not be. See, it is very difficult for that forecast to correlate with a particular place, whether it is for Cochin or Trivandrum, or whether it is for Wayanad. How will you correlate with a place? So I don't think it can be done. See, it may be applicable to your place. The astronomical forecast may say heavy rains for Cochin, but it may not happen for Cochin. It may happen in Wayanad. How will you identify a place in astronomy based in astronomy?
Okay, thank you, sir. We have one question from Jayalakshmi. She's asking which environmental characteristics affect wind behavior, or which environmental specifications can be used to estimate wind speed?
See, it depends upon suppose if you take right now you would see the wind speed will be very less today in Kerala because there is no monsoon active low in the other side. Whenever there is a monsoon low in the other side in Bay of Bengal, automatically it activates the winds monsoon in the other side. At the same time, MJO, the presence of MJO also is there. So when it normally moves from western to eastern side. So all these things we can use it to predict. Okay, there is going to be increase in wind speed. Next week there is going to be less winds. Right now in break phase. So this is a break monsoon phase right now. So Kerala will be getting less rainfall in coming days. You can see that there is going to be the wind speed is going to be much less. So you can see the overall synoptic situation and then arrive, okay, the wind speed is going to be less or high or all these things. Based on experience, you can arrive. It is not linked to any particular factor, but whenever there is a low pressure, monsoon low pressure, which is going to form in the other side, automatically the winds will pick up in the other side. You often would have noticed the monsoon low would form near Odisha and it will move inland via Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, and it will move towards the Mumbai or Gujarat coast. Whenever it is the monsoon low is nearing the Arabian Sea side, automatically there will be very strong winds. Monsoon winds will be forming in the Arabian Sea side. That is the period when you see very strong offshore trough. That is when the period when Kerala gets very good rainfall.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Just one last question from Lakshmi Ravindran. She asked, does our infrastructure able to afford this heavy rain, and landslide is becoming common now? What is the reason?
See, we cannot, landslide is not dependent on only infrastructure. It depends upon the soil saturation also. Whether it's going to be the first rain of the monsoon or whether it's going to be the third or fourth heavy rainfall. Suppose if we take the 2018 or 19, if the rainfall have happened in 2018, you see a lot of landslides. The rainfall happened in August after 4 or 5 heavy spells. The earth was completely saturated, so it cannot hold much moisture. But if it is the first spell, you not have seen that kind of landslides. So it depends upon the soil saturation also and the number of heavy previous spells also.
Thank you, sir, for answering all our questions. Now I would like to invite Sunod sir from Department of Statistics, QuizZat, to felicitate the event.
Okay. Respected Vice Chancellor, who inaugurated this program, and the guest of honor, Mr. Pradeep John, other faculty members from our department. I don't know how many of them are now in this chat room. And also I saw Dr. Vishnuvardhan. So respected colleagues, my dear students. Actually, I'm so happy to see that your business is off to a running start. And opening your own business is always a milestone. And from the description given in the beginning, this particular club covers almost all areas. And as far as the members are concerned, all parts of industry, economics, service, all are members of this group. They can contribute. And so congratulations, first of all, congratulations for opening this new idea. And this idea is brilliant. And actually it's a dream project. Now it has been landed. And I wish you all the best to this our Stats Club. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful words, Sunod sir. Just going back to Mr. Pradeep, there's one last query. I'm so sorry if you have the time. Do we use the question is from Dibu. Do we use a reinforcement learning algorithm for updating the parameters of the numerical model? Is it a differential model, since I observe a challenge in reducing the mesh size for the model?
I think it is too technical for me to answer.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Asha ma'am from Department of Statistics, Cochin University, to felicitate.
One thing is I want to tell is that particularly for the grid size, that data should be there. Simply putting a grid and not giving the data is no use. For a particular grid, there should be a data available, which has to be fed into the model. No point in reducing the grid size of the model and not feeding any model, any data into that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Pradeep. Now I invite Jacob sir from Department of Statistics, Cochin University, to felicitate the event and honor this function with his
Just
few
one more.
words.
If you see Kerala and Tamil Nadu, we are having the least number of weather stations and number of data available. So hardly no one knows when it rains in, particularly in any gut areas. No one knows how much rainfall is happening there because there is lack of data is there. So even Tamil Nadu is the same. So Kerala and Tamil Nadu in southern peninsula are the worst in having particular data. That's why I think a lot of issues have come up. So whenever it rains and the cut areas, we don't know. We have to only estimate. Okay, there is rain. It is raining there. How much rain? The number of stations also it's pretty less.
I hope that answer is very Bibu. Is Dr. Vishnuvardhan here from Pondicherry University?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, can you please felicitate the event, please?
Okay, so first of all, I should congratulate the team who have taken this initiative to make use of the expertise which is available in the statistics domain and fraternity. That my hearty congratulations to them. And as for coming to the coming to the presentation given by Mr. Pradeep, it was so interesting, and it was totally packed up with the technological advances, how you see the rainfall and related parameters. And it was so impressive. And your answers to the questions raised by the people among the gathering was so clear and clear-cut information you have given. Thank you for that. And I should thank each and everyone, I mean, particularly Sunod sir and Professor Shankaran sir for giving me this opportunity to just share some of my words. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presence, sir. Now I would like to invite Sri Ranganath to give the vote of thanks.
Hello all. First of all, I would say a couple of words like this actually the idea behind this actually came up from a very long time. I think most of us have this idea of a common platform being built so that everyone can gather in one place and share their knowledge, and the new persons or those who are in need can gain the knowledge from a same platform in an easy accessible way. So I thank Shankaran sir for accepting our invitation and coming to this meeting and inaugurating the function. Next, I would like to thank Pradeep. I have contacted him. I thought like when I surfed the net, I could not get to him, or we cannot reach to him, and we have made some couple of communication back and forth, and it was like because anyway we know that he's busy with this daily schedule. I think he has 6 days office kind of a thing nowadays. So anyway, in this busy schedule, he has scheduled some time for us and came to this event and share his experiences and the knowledge which he has, and that he gained these much years. Thank you, Pradeep, for coming over here. Next, I would like to thank our faculties. Basically, we are from some of us are from Cochin University, and our all faculties, when we conveyed this message, they have given moral support as well as positive feedback, and I think we have done something what they have in their mind. That's what the exact feeling what we had when we shared this experience with them. So that was that gave us some strength to go move forward and give something to this platform, and that really worked, it seems. So I thank each and every faculty of the department for that support. And when we share, means when we spread this thing to the other faculties and other colleges, other institutions, other friends, colleagues everywhere, they all give some very much positive feedback was there, so that they all are interested in these kind of activities, and they also are very much willing to support us or give the services or something like that. So I thank all of them who joined in this, have scheduled some time in their busy schedule. They have scheduled some time, kept their time apart to see or to participate with us in this meeting. And I thank each and every person in our club's name. So thank you all for joining over here. Thanks a lot. moving to higher.
Yes, thank you, thank you, Samyatan. I would also request everyone here to join our club. I have actually put the link to our website in the chat box. Thank you all again for taking your time to join.
I would like to mention 2-3 things. Okay, regarding the monitoring or management of this club, because you have launched a new idea where we can discuss many scientific issues using statistical knowledge. So when you post something here, when you write something here, it should be mathematically correct, and it should be verified thoroughly. Otherwise, people will see this, and later it will be a problem for us. Okay, very a thorough scrutiny should be there before posting something. Any
like some kind of validation. Yeah.
Validation, because this is a very not like a social platform. This is a scientific platform. Okay. Second thing is, you have mentioned that this platform is used for helping students for research purpose. So when you put something here, and you should ensure that the result of one person or the project of one person should not be utilized by others without informing the original person. Okay. Otherwise, it will create problems. Okay, I have posted something related to this problem, and this whole idea or this work has been taken by others, something like that. Okay, so
proprietary issues.
So you should be very careful for monitoring and managing this platform. Okay, a few people, you have to identify few people who should be responsible for the monitoring of the system. Okay, anyway, this is a very good lecture. All the best for this.
Thank you, Shankaran sir, for your wise words. The club will definitely take those advices. And I also request everyone to join the club through our website. I have put it on the chat box. It's ourstatsclub.org. And if you have any queries, please do contact the club through the website.
So you need to maintain the legacy of the department, and the quality you have to maintain. So that's what I want to add here.
Yes, definitely, sir. Thank you. If anyone has anything to speak up, please, it's your chance. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you
for the time. Thank you, Mr. Pradeep, and all of the faculties from CUSAT, and Vishnuvardhan sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.